Good to see you again. Start the second third of the semester this week. Three things I want to go over with you today. One, about your grades. Grade progress reports should be mailed out this afternoon. Should have been printed yesterday from what I hear. We will review the three most common economic systems that we talked about last week. And then lastly, we'll talk about circular flow models, which are graphic representations of those three economic systems, a command or centrally planned economic system, a mixed system, or a market system. And I want to talk to you a little bit about government and individual roles in each of those economic systems. But that's what we'll focus on this week. Also talk about the two assignments that were due on Monday. I told you to focus on the things that were due for your progress report grade. The two assignments that we had, the system analysis that we did in class last week, as well as the economic case study, which you were supposed to do on Monday, is still open until Friday. So it's still available for you until that day. And you will want to go ahead and open your Canvas homepage for this class real quick. Okay, so I had mentioned this really early in the year, but I wanted to go over it again. Aries is updated every day at 3:30 with your most current grade. Aries is the only place that has all of the grades, all of the assignments updated in one location. Your Canvas grade, or the grade that you go to in Canvas, if you click on grades in Canvas, it does not include everything we've done, right? Your test was on School City. You've had a system analysis assignment on Go Formative. You've had assignments in the Plato Edmentum location. So here you can see all of the assignments that have been listed, and you can see here on my test student account, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 missing assignments, right? So when you look at that, that is not the same as what it would be if you went to Aries. So be careful when you're looking in Canvas at your overall grade, as it is not reflective of what it really is. All of the assignments that we have in there are not located there. So you need to check Aries to get your most up-to-date grade. The things we do in class are put into Aries. The things that you do as homework in between the class meetings that we have every Wednesday, the tests that you took, those are all included in one location in Aries, and then those are updated every day at 3:30. So that is the place to check. The other thing that's important for you to do is when you do check Aries, make sure that things that you have turned in is showing as graded by me. And then the second thing you want to make sure is that the score that's recorded is the score that you earned. So if you earn 9 out of 10, but it shows 8 out of 10 or 7 out of 10, you need to let me know so we can see what is going on. But you want to double check that. And I would check those things every week. We generally have two things. One thing in class we do, and then one thing outside of class we do. I would check once a week to make sure that things that you have done and completed were recorded correctly and are available to you. Are there any questions on that? Okay, so next thing I want you to do is go to your modules page, and we'll look at the economic system. So click on modules and bring that up. All right, and then from your modules, week 5 was the end of the first 6-week grading period. Week 6 is the start of the second one. Last week, we focused on the 3 types of economic systems that we had available. So centrally planned or command is one economic system, mixed system, and a market system. Those were the 3 that we looked at. We did the system analysis together, and the case studies, number 1, you were supposed to do before you got there. So go ahead and click on the presentation where it says economic systems and notes, and bring this page up. Sorry about that. Got some weird name in the waiting room I've never even heard of. So I told them, sorry, thanks, but no thanks. I don't want to be one of the famous ones that got Zoom bombed by somebody. Okay. So real quick, looking at the 3 systems we focused on last week and some real world examples of those economic systems in the world. The one thing that I wanted you to get out of, or the biggest thing I wanted you to get out of that, was this idea that in a centrally planned system, right, government is the one that controls and makes the decisions. In a mixed system, you're looking at best, right, a 50-50 mix of government and individual making decisions. And then when you get to a market system, you generally have the individuals making the decisions. And so what I want you to be able to do is understand, if we take the first row of countries, right, going from North Korea to France to the United States. In that instance, right, North Korea is a communist country, one of the most closed societies in the world. The government makes all of the decisions about all of the resources, how they're going to be allocated, how they're going to be used, and then how they're going to be distributed from there. As we move to a country like France, which is an example of a mixed system, France is a mix of government control and of individual control. Then, as we move to the United States in a market economy, it's all individuals. So as we move left to right, every time we go a little bit farther to the right from centrally planned to mixed to market, we're losing government control in the economy. And so that way, if you look at the second row of countries, you have Hong Kong, you have South Africa, and you have Cuba. Hong Kong is one of the freest economic systems in the world. Almost all decisions are made by individuals. As we move to South Africa, we lose some of the individual freedom and pick up government control. And then when we get to Cuba, Cuba is a communist country, and that is where decisions are made by the government. Okay, well, that's good to know. When we come back the other way, from Iran to Japan to the United Kingdom, Once again, we're going from almost complete government control to a mixed situation with Japan in terms of government control and individual control. And then when you go from Japan to the United Kingdom, you're going to have mostly individual control with some government regulations. And so depending whether you're going from centrally planned to market, you're losing government decisions. When you're going from market to centrally planned, you're using individual decisions and adding government and so on and so forth. So you want to understand that dynamic as you move throughout, right? As you move throughout. Any questions on that portion? Okay. So on your Canvas page, go ahead and click next all the way to the system analysis that we did together. So you'll have to go through the different source notes on the centrally planned and get to this page here where it says system analysis. Okay, so real quick, this is the assignment that we did in class last week. Remember, it was a system analysis over 2 make-believe countries, Malaguia, Beringia, and each group looked at 4 scenarios. You were the economic advisor. Once you hit submit down at the bottom, as I said, probably the easiest way to have your grade show up quickly is to copy the URL, which is the web address up in the box, and then go to your submit button, go to website URL, paste that in there, and then hit submit. That'll send a notification. I can click on your submission link and see your responses and get your grade updated and loaded from there. So we did that in class. You should have submitted that rather quickly. There were some of you who had yet to do that, so you want to make sure that you finish that. And then, as I said last week, I wanted to make sure that you finished everything in the first grading period. But the second assignment that should have been done on Monday, due date was Monday, so it's showing up in your grade already. If you didn't do it, it's going to show as a 0 out of 10. It is open and available until Friday, is the case study for economic systems. On these Google Forms, you want to use your school provided email address so that it links with your grades. Put your real name there. And then this one was, you were going to watch the scene from the Disney movie, answer the questions about what economic system you think it was. Scene from the Hunger Games commercial or trailer, what economic system you see there. And then Tucker the Man in His Dream, a late 80s movie, in terms of the economic system, right, that the character is describing. The last one was your pitch, your opinion, which of the 3 systems depicted which you want to live in and why, and then hit submit. Once you hit submit, it would be the same thing. You would copy the URL. You would go here, click on submit assignment, go to website URL, put this in, and this will show up. I think that we were up to 65 students out of the 3 sections of econ, which is roughly about 97 students have submitted that, but that's still available until Friday for you. You want to make sure that you get that in. Any questions on how to do that? Okay. So then on your module, if you click next from here, and you've done modules 1 through 5, it should proceed to the overview page for this week, and we'll get into the new material there. So get to this page here, and we can follow along together. And let me add and update the attendance real quick. All right, so that's updated. So I said at the beginning, today we're going to look at circular flow models. And circular flow models very simply are just a graphic representation, a picture representation of what happens in an economic system. And we'll look at the 3 most common economic systems. So we'll look at a command or centrally planned economic system circular flow model. We'll look at a mixed circular flow model, and we'll look at a market circular flow model. You want to be able to explain what is going on in each of those circular flow models, but it's a very simple process, so I'll explain that to you. You want to understand the similarities and differences between the 3 systems, right? And basically for you, as I tried to illustrate with our review of the economic systems, is depending on how much government control there is in the economic system, that helps you decide which economic system it is. And then lastly, if I were to show you a picture of a circular flow model, you should be able to tell just from the picture what economic system we are describing, right? What economic system we are describing. So go ahead and click next and get to the next page in module 6. And I'll give you a couple seconds to do that. Okay, so as I said, what we have here is just a graphic representation of what is happening in an economic system. We'll start with the most basic circular flow model and work our way to a command or centrally planned circular flow model, which is the most complex of them. But basically, they're all going to be the same. There's going to be 2 things that are called markets. So if we look at this diagram here and this diagram here, what we're looking at is the 2 separate entities that sort of work in conjunction in an economic system to make things work. The arrows that we have here, so if I take the spotlight here, right, the arrows that we have here, right, this arrow here, this arrow here, this one going between firms and households, and then back between households and firms, each of those are what's called exchanges. And so in a market system, there is always going to be a minimum of 4 economic exchanges. And those economic exchanges are going to take place between households, and households make what's called the factor market. And the other market is where goods and services are sold, is called the product market. All right. And so it's very simple, right? You and I make up the factor market. We provide businesses the land, the labor, the capital, the entrepreneurship or business knowledge to help create goods and services. And so we ship, as it says here, right? We ship the factors of production to the firms, and the firms, in exchange for that, give us money, right? You don't go work a job unless you're going to get paid for it. Now, we take that money and we pay our bills, right? Our rent, our mortgage, our gas, our insurance, clothes, food, whatever it is. And so we take the money that we have earned and we go spend it on finished goods and services. So we go to the store, go to Albertsons, go to Vons, Spencer's Market, wherever it may be, buy our food, buy any of the other necessities that we need from these firms here. But what you want to understand is that these economic systems, right, generally have two parts, a factor market and a product market. And the only difference between a market system circular flow model and a mixed system circular flow model and a command or centrally planned circular flow model is going to be the amount of government interference. And in a market system where we have the least amount of government interference, right, we have a minimum of 4 exchanges. Any questions on that one? Okay, so then scroll down and go to your next picture, which looks like this. So scroll down a little bit on that. All right, and as you can see here, the product market and the factor market is already labeled there for us. So let's divide this economic system this way, since it's already got it labeled for us. So we'll go across this way. Now, in a mixed system, the only thing that's different than what we had in a market system is the amount of government decisions and influence in the economy. So if you look at the arrows again, we still have the factor market where people and households, right? People and households here sell the factors of production to firms in exchange for money. We take that money and we go to firms and we buy finished goods and services that we use in our household. So we still have the 4 original exchanges, but now we have the government involved. And so that is what you have in the middle. Government involvement, the government collecting taxes from both the factor market and the product market. In the product market, the government does make purchases, right? The government, for example, Air Force One, the president, Air Force Two, the vice president's plane are made by Boeing. So the government will take money from taxes and go into the market and buy certain items. Now, in the factor market, the government will pay, right, for government-owned factors, taking taxes from firms to do that. So in a mixed system, you're going to have a minimum of 8 exchanges, and that's because we have government intervention now. Government intervention. Helps if I spell exchanges right, doesn't it? Let me erase that. There we go. All right, so 8 exchanges at a minimum in a mixed system. And the only difference between a mixed system and a market system is now we have government influence and decision-making in our economic system. Questions on this one? All right, so now you will go and you will scroll down here to a centrally planned or what we call a command system. Go ahead and scroll down to that last one. Okay, so in this one here, get to blue, let me get a wider line here. Whoops. Okay, so here we have the same thing. I'm going to draw this line. We have our factor market, right? Land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship furnished by households. Goods and services entering the retail market coming from business and firms. So we still have the same thing. We have the factor market over here with the households. You put that down there. We still have the product market. And we can put this here. In this area here. And then we still have the 4 original exchanges, right? We have the exchanges of land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship or business knowledge to the firms. Money still provided for those items. Households take money, go and buy finished goods and services. Though what we have here, right, is this government involvement here in everything now. So at a minimum, we're going to have 16 exchanges in a centrally planned or command system because the government is involved in all aspects of the factor market and the product market. And so that's why you can see, right, if we were to number, right, if we were to number these, that's 1, that's 2, you can go on. It's really slow when I do this. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, right, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, right? So we've got all of those exchanges taking place in our command system. And that's because when you look at this, the government is involved in everything that goes on. The government is the one that decides what resources are going to be used, how they're going to be used, and then how we're going to, or who is going to get the finished goods and services after we determine what is best. Is there any questions on that? Okay, so once you get to that point, go ahead and click on next, and we're going to do a system comparison. All right. So if you want to open a tab and log into your formative, you can, but you'll want to click and open this informative, and we'll talk about what you're going to do next. So if you click here where it says system comparison, if you've logged into Go Formative, it'll open it up for you in there. If you haven't logged into Formative, it'll ask you to log in, and then you will be able to see this. So a couple of things. Basically, what we're going to do is a system comparison between a market system and a command or centrally planned system. We'll divide you up into 2 groups. Group 1, you're going to answer questions 1, 3, and 5. So if you look here on formative, United States questions are 1, 3, and 5. North Korea is 2, 4, 6. Group 2, you'll be North Korea, 2, 4, and 6. So you'll answer these 3 questions about ownership, resource allocation, and distribution of goods and services and social programs based on whether you're Group 1 or Group 2. Group 1, you'll answer these as it relates to the United States. Who owns or controls the means of production, which is the factors of production? Question 3 on your formative, how are productive resources allocated among people and businesses in the United States? And then finally, for question 5, group 1, you'll answer questions based on distribution of goods and services as well as social programs, right? How are those distributed in the United States? Group 2, you will be North Korea. So you will answer question 1, which is number 2 on your formative. Who owns or controls the means of production in North Korea? Question 5 on your formative, or question 2 for North Korea. How are productive resources allocated among people and businesses in that country? And then question 6 on your formative, or the third one for North Korea, is how are goods and services going to be distributed? I would do this in your formative when you work with a group, so you can type in questions 1, 3, and 5, or 2, 4, and 6, depending whether your group's 1 or 2. Then when we come back together and the other group presents, you'll be able to fill this in as we go over this together in your formative, and you'll be able to submit that right away, and you'll have a leg up on what needs to happen. So we'll create 2 groups. All right. So group 1 will have Alexa, Alyssa, Edgar, Isabella, Isaac, Ms. Smith, Katrina, Nick, Ramon, Ms. Soto. Group 2 will be Blake, Bruna, Carly, Christian, Emily, Isaiah, Joe, Maddie, and Sheila. All right. Group 1, you're going to do on your formative questions 1, 3, and 5 regarding the United States and its market economy. Group 2, you're going to do questions 2, 4, and 6 on the formative as it relates to North Korea and its economic system. All right, afternoon. So when you guys are looking at questions 1, 3, and 5, the most important thing to keep in mind is the United States is what sort of economic system?
Market.
Market. And so in a market economy, decisions are made by who? When you go into a grocery store, who tells you what you can buy?
You.
Yeah, you, the individual. So in all those questions on 1, 3, and 5, you want to remember that the United States is the market economy, and individuals get to decide for themselves. The government doesn't tell you what to go buy at the grocery store. You get to decide yourself. So remember that when you're doing questions 1, 3, and 5.
So we will do it, and then you guys are going to answer it, right?
Yes.
Okay, who wants to read the first question?
Are the questions on GoFormative or Canvas?
Go
I
for
have no idea what
They're on GoFormative.
Oh,
And
perfect.
so the one thing that'll help you with this, right? North Korea is what type of economic system?
Central.
Central or command. And so that means, as it relates to your questions 2, 4, and 6, we know North Korea is a centrally planned or command system. So that means that who is making all of the decisions in that country?
Government.
The government. The government decides what's going to be produced. The government decides what's going to be available in a grocery store. The government lets you know how much you're going to get. So keep that in mind when you answer 2, 4, and 6. That'll help you quickly.
This year, we are all students.
I think everybody's back now. Okay, so group one, you went first last week, so we'll have group two go first this week. As I said, what you want to do is make sure, all right, group two, you're going to present first on questions 2, 4, and 6. Group one, you want to have this open in your formative so you can type right in the answers that they're going to share with us. And then when you present group two, you'll put in for questions 1, 3, and 5 when group one presents. So I'm going to put this in a box so that everybody can see it. Group two, you're going to go first on North Korea, all right, and the comparison here. So let me create a text box. All right, so group two, in North Korea, when we talk about ownership of the factors of production, in North Korea, who owns the factors of production?
The government controls everything, so they're
Yep.
the one who owns it.
The government through public and government agencies control the factors of production. We'll just abbreviate that F of P. All right, so that's perfect. So group 1, you should type that in to your formative question number 2. Group 2, you should have done that together. All right, and then the second part about North Korea, which would be question 4 on your formative, how are productive resources, right, allocated among people in business in North Korea?
By the government.
Yep, by the government's plan. Okay, by the government's plan. Also should be pointed out, right, that the government will also decide how much, right, is given in that plan. So that's what you should put for 2. Question 6 on your formative, number 3 for North Korea on group 2. When we talk about distribution of goods and services as well as social programs in North Korea, what or how are those passed out or distributed?
The government decides who gets the goods and services and how much they get.
That's exactly right. The government, basically what they do is after goods and services, and I'll abbreviate that G\S. So after the goods and services are made, right, they're produced, the government will take all of the goods and services and redistribute that helps if I spell it right. Redistribute the goods and services to the people. All right. So once all the goods and services are made, the government will take all of the goods and services and redistribute those to the people. To the people. So group 2, that's excellent. That's exactly what you should have for that. Make sure that you have that in your formative. Group 1, you're going to give us what you put for 1, 3, and 5. Group 2, you'll want to type this into your formative as they present, and then you'll be able to turn that in right away and submit it. All right, so group 1, when it comes to the United States, all right, who owns or controls the means of production, the factors of production?
The individuals control
Yes.
production.
So just as it says there to the left, private individuals, okay, or businesses own the factors of production. All right, perfect. Group 1, what did you have for question number 3 on your formative, number 2 on the United States in terms of resource allocation? How are factors of production allocated amongst people and businesses?
The market system.
Yeah, the market system through supply and demand will decide where and how much of production will be used. All right, will be used. Then on the last one, which is your formative question number 5, number 3 for the United States, group 1, what did you have for that?
I don't think this is right, but I said that the goods and services are distributed by the individuals.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah, because individuals are the ones that own the businesses, right? So really the distribution of goods and services would be individual businesses or corporations, and we'll talk about those later in the semester, what's the difference between that. Individual businesses or corporations are the ones that basically sell or make available, right, finished goods and services. Now, the only addition that we have in this country, right, when we talk about Medicare, we talk about the stimulus check during the pandemic from the government. The government does offer, right, the government does offer some goods and services to people in need. Individual businesses or corporations generally make available the goods and services. Our government at the federal level and the state level do offer some goods and services to people in need, right? Those are our safety net programs. Any questions on that? Okay, so I will bring this picture back up in a second. I just saved it. But what I want to show you is when you are done submitting this. So let me clear this real quick. When you have inputted all 6 of your answers, there's a submit button down at the bottom. You'll submit that. You'll copy this. You'll go here to your submit button. You'll go to the website URL and you'll paste this in, right? And so you'll want to do that right away. When you're done with that, the only thing that you have to do between now and next Wednesday when we meet is this second case study. So in this case study, again, it's through a Google form. So please use your school email because it will make your grade transfer much faster and accurately. Use your real name. And then the scenario this time is you and your older brother are completely different. This summer, you had a full-time job and always came up with ideas to make extra money, babysitting, painting fences, what have you. Your brother, on the other hand, had a part-time job over the summer and spends his time relaxing and playing video games. So to be honest, you're a little jealous of his lifestyle. You would prefer to work less and you wonder if there's a sensible alternative to capitalism. You come across an online video, is capitalism moral, right? So you're going to watch that short video clip and then answer questions 1 through 5. You text the link of the video to your brother, and a few minutes later, he sends you back a link to a video that's called Inequality is Real, and it was created. You'll answer questions 7 and 8, and then you'll talk about is capitalism moral or not moral. You'll submit that. Once you submit that, it's the same process again. You'll copy your URL. You'll go to your submit button here on Canvas, click on the website URL, submit that, and that's all you need to have done between now and next Wednesday. So don't forget that your system analysis from last week on the economic systems and your case study number 1 from last week was due Monday, but it's available until Friday because I wanted you to focus on the end of the grading period. So make sure that you get that in by 3:15. Submit your case system comparison, right? North Korea and USA today. And then you have until next Monday to submit this second case study. I'm going to put that picture back up. So if you did not finish, I'm going to put that picture back up. You can also stay on if you have questions or concerns. But if not, that's all we need to do for today. So have a good week. I'll open up that picture right now and put it up. It'll take just a minute. Should be a black screen now. It'll turn white and then the picture will come up. There we go. Can you see it okay? So somebody asked, once you turn this in, are you free to leave? Yes. So just make sure you submit the system comparison. Realize that you have to do the case study number 2 before next Wednesday and you're good to go.